So, Republicans are truly the masters of shifting blame on individuals for systemic problems.
Since my confirmation, our department has encouraged states to think differently and creatively about how to solve the many health issues facing Americans. One way is by not allowing taxpayer-funded benefits to be used to purchase unhealthy items like soda, candy, and other junk food. The number one purchase by SNAP recipients is sugary drinks. SNAP is a supplemental nutrition program meant to provide health food benefits to low-income families to supplement their grocery budget so they can afford the nutritious food essential to health and well-being. That is the stated purpose of the SNAP program. The law states it, and President Trump's USDA plans to deliver on it alongside our partners at HHS. So today, I'm proud to sign 6 more waivers for Florida, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and Colorado. This is in addition to the waivers we've already signed for Iowa, Indiana, and others across the country. I continue to encourage states to be laboratories of innovation. Think through how you can promote healthy families and healthy communities.
Changes to the SNAP program are emblematic of that commitment. SNAP, we're spending $405 million a day on SNAP, and about 10% is going to sugary drinks. And and if you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. And we all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. And the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying to feed kids foods, the poorest kids in our country, with foods that are going to give them diabetes. And then my agency ends up through Medicaid and Medicare paying for those injuries. So we're going to put an end to that. And we're doing it step by step, state by state.
Let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here fighting for people in my district because Republicans are willing to sell out working and struggling folks in my district. And frankly, there's two, to appease billionaires and big corporations. Now, I know we've had a lot of talk about how much SNAP costs a day, and the fact is that it's only $6 a day that a person gets when they get SNAP benefits, but we've not talked about the cost of Medicaid. It costs approximately $10 a day to ensure a kid gets health care through Medicaid. So we're talking about to take care of kids. Let's say they've got SNAP and Medicaid, only $16 a day. But another thing we've not really put into perspective, we've talked about these billionaires, and we've talked about the fact that this is all to benefit them. No one has talked about how many billionaires we actually have in this country. We have more billionaires in the United States than any other country, but the total number is 83. Last time I checked, we have 435 members in the House, and we have 100 members in the Senate, yet somehow 83 people in this country have more representation than the hundreds of thousands that are about to lose their health care as well as their SNAP benefits. If I just started going through the Republicans that sit on this committee briefly, I would tell you that, Chairwoman, you have 112,000 people that are about to lose SNAP benefits just in your district. I would tell you that it is estimated in your state, as your senators stated, that roughly 651,982 would lose their health care, or I would tell Rep. Fishbach that 67,000 people on SNAP, and in the entire state of Minnesota, 173 would lose their health care. I could go on with these numbers, or I could tell you about the fact that even when we look at my state, and I know that Chip Roy sits on this committee, but he's not here right now, but we have 56,000 people that are on SNAP in his district, but in the entire state of Texas, we have 1.6 million people that may lose coverage. And somehow we have 83 billionaires. And somehow they have 535 people that are speaking up for them every single day to make sure that when they get married for a second or third or fourth time, that they can go ahead and have another $50 or $60 million wedding. Instead of protecting access to these programs, you're cutting them to help billionaires who pay less in taxes than some of the teachers in our country. You claim to want a tax system and budget that helps people, but that's impossible when you're subsidizing tax credits off of the folks who can't even afford to treat their kids or family to a nice meal because federal minimum wage hasn't gone up in 15 years. If y'all want to make a better system, then adopt my amendment number 314 that would require an increase in the federal minimum wage of $15 in order for corporate tax breaks to go into effect. Speaking of wages, this bill doesn't even give the same level of help to people living on tip wages and working overtime just to put food on this table as it does for Trump's billionaire buddies. In fact, the bill only allows no tax on tips and overtime until 2028, and we've talked about this. Listen, this is a joke. This was nothing more than a campaign scheme. This was about saying, you know what, I'm gonna make this promise to you. And we can talk about the fact that there have been a lot of promises made, yet a lot of promises broken. In fact, that was one of the reasons it seems like that, Senator Tillis has decided that he's done. And he's gonna get out because he understands that there's nothing but broken promises that are being made. Broken promises that look like, say, I'm going to deport the bad guys only, and then we end up with children with cancer or Americans or undocumented taxpayers that contribute more than $100 billion in taxes. Those are the ones being thrown in cages and sent to other countries. Or we look at the fact that there was a promise made and broken that Doge was supposed to be the magic trick. Now Elon is being threatened with deportation and the cancellation of his own contracts, which historically have been estimated at a whopping $38 billion after he decided that he was going to spill the tea about the Epstein files. And frankly, the truth is that we know that we could cut a lot of those contracts to Elon, but somehow that hasn't been done. Instead, we, the American people, have been left with the hefty tab of incompetence by Doge and feeling extremely vulnerable. In fact, there was a Doge employee who was fired, and I appreciate this man, but truly, transparency and truth has no place in this particular government. This former employee of Doge says that during his short time embedded with the Department of Veteran Affairs, he did not find levels of waste, fraud, and abuse that he had expected, and it was pretty surprised, actually, at how efficient government was. I will wrap up by saying this. I don't really understand what it is that y'all plan to go back and tell your constituents. I'm glad that some of y'all decided to show up, but the reality is that you have sold your constituents out for 83 people in this country. And each of our districts should have approximately 766,000 people. How is it that you can explain that we still are running up the credit card and we have nothing to show for it except for the fact that we won't have food on the tables and we won't have health care? And with that, I will yield.
At the end of the day, if these people genuinely cared about the health and the well-being of children in this country, they would be expanding SNAP, not reducing it, not taking it away from people. Because they are cutting SNAP by $187 billion through 2034, but they claim that they care about these children's health and wellness. The Republican Party is just actively against the well-being of the public. I mean, it's not just the SNAP cuts. We've already gone over the Medicaid cuts, the increases to the military budget, despite Trump claiming that he's this anti-war hero and bombing Iran. We care about the children. That's why they're giving Netanyahu anything he wants. As he's openly announcing that he's going to do a full occupation of Gaza, but Republicans care so much of children, despite how many children are starving to death and just being flat out slaughtered over there, right? And then we have things like the Job Corps here in America, which the Trump administration just destroyed. If you care about the well-being of children and kids, you would want them to be employed. You would want more people from inner city areas, urban areas around the country to be able to have opportunities so that we could better compete with the international job market. But that's not what these people are concerned about. They're just concerned about making billionaires richer and subjugating the public so that we can't climb the social ladder. If these people cared about children, they would invest more in education. Public education would be more important to these people. They wouldn't be trying to privatize absolutely everything. They are always waging a war on higher education. At the end of the day, 17, 18-year-olds, those are children. You might be legally an adult when you're 18, but your ass is a child. You really a kid in your 20s. I'm 33 years old. I've been there, done that. I'm still a young man, but I'm a grown man, you feel me? But at the end of the day, I mean, they're just actively against the well-being of the public in every way that they can be. And Donald Trump has lied and failed to deliver on absolutely all of his campaign promises routinely.